Hello. Right. Following on from the motivational video, I was going to give it another bash. And then I thought, no. Not because I don't need to, because I do. But I thought what I'd do, because it ends up being quite a long video. So what I thought I'd do is I'd pick snippets that I felt had some form of relevance. So I'm probably going to start, I might as well get the worst one out of the way. And the worst one is me walking away from my daughter. This probably caused me more shame than anything I've ever done. And I've done some pretty fucked up shit in my life. Now, scenario is, I got married. I'm not going to put any names in because it's unfair on the people that are innocent in this. I shouldn't have done. It was definitely a marriage of more convenience. Well, put it this way. She asked me, and my response at the time was, "You coming up or not?" Sorry. The response at the time was, "Yeah, okay, I've got now better to do." I know, hardly the grounds of an amazing relationship, was it? It was more a relationship of convenience, and that probably sounds awful, but it meant I could live my life as I was at the time. There was little sort of change commitment from me. Again, not very good either. Anyway, long story short, because it was based on that and not on commitment and love, I ended up having an affair. Now, I'd never been someone to have a great deal of confidence around the ladies. In fact, to be honest, I was always felt that I was a bit of the ugly duckling. I'll go, now, thank you. So, the strange thing is, once I'd got married, and Connect, everybody's moving around today. Come on, get past. Bugger off, little one. So, going back to the story, it seemed like everyone came out of the bloody woodwork. Anyway, I was working the door, and I'd never been one for meeting women on the door. In fact, I don't think I ever really had. And a very, very attractive woman grabbed me ass and was quite blunt about the fact that she may be interested. We flirted on and off for, God, it must have been months before we finally actually got together. I wasn't a particularly nice person in that relationship. I wasn't particularly a bad person. It was just, it was what it was. We'd set grounds beforehand that we weren't going to get verbally involved. There wasn't going to be a long-term commitment. It was just a bit of fun. However, we both fell madly in love with each other, but I was very much in denial. The result of that relationship was that she became pregnant. And now she was on the pill, and I was on a ton of gear. Anyway, she became pregnant. I shit myself. Things got messy, and I pretty much bolted. I did go to see my daughter shortly after she was born, but that was pretty much the end of it. The relationship ended, and everything was exceptionally messy. Now, I did think that she would have moved on. I also did think that I wasn't going to be a good father, and I wasn't going to be a good influence, and I was probably better out of the way. But however, the main factor for my non-involvement was I shit myself. It's something that I carried a lot of shame for, and I took a long time for me to come anywhere near forgiving myself. To me, that was a real cardinal sin, and I had a very, very low opinion of myself because of it. And in fact, I entered into a long-term, my wife at that time, we split. That was always going to happen anyway. And then later I got into another relationship, got married again. And again, it was a marriage that wasn't out of love. It was out of, this was what I felt I deserved. It wasn't a happy relationship. In fact, it was a fucking awful relationship for a large portion of the time. There's blame on both sides. I dragged her and her family through a lot of shit. She dragged me through a lot of shit. Towards the end, predominantly shit from her, if I'm honest. But, you know, over times I'd done my fair bit of crap. But the point is that I stayed in that relationship out of guilt for what I'd done to my daughter, because I'd walked away. I struggled with that for a very long time, but I boxed it up. I shoved it in the back of my mind, kept it away, and never faced it, never dealt with it. We fast forward 12 years. I've been in prison for 4.5 years. Now in prison, I've decided that my relationship with my wife at this point is no good. It's irreparable. There's a lot of things going on, and I need to get out. But I've got a son, and the guilt of how I handled the first relationship is stopping me from going on the second one. So I decide I need to set things in motion. I need to make sure they're all right. I need to do this, need to do that, need to do the other. This ends up taking years. But eventually it comes to a head. I've made a decision, and the conversation has started. And then out of the blue, I get a Facebook message from my daughter saying she wants to meet. Shock, fear, all sorts. I didn't know what to say. Obviously I answered. It was very just sort of yes, no, and how you doing, and I just didn't know what to say. I was so embarrassed. I felt so guilty over what I'd done. But we got talking, and she never asked any difficult questions. She never asked why. She never did any of that. Now, in the process of talking to her, I had to talk to her mother. And it became very apparent to me very, very quickly that I had a very, very deep-seated love for this woman that I'd buried up and bottled for a very, very long time. And it was agreed that I would go down and pick Charlie up, who's my daughter. And I remember walking up to that door, and it was like I was an 8-year-old kid going to the headmaster's office. I was terrified, and I half expected the front door to open and a frying pan to come flying out around the corner and wrap me around the side of the head. And it is nothing that I wouldn't have deserved, and a lot more. I felt like scum for over 12 years, and now I was having to face this. I was terrified, but you know what? She was all right. She let me in. I met my daughter. My daughter came and stopped me for a week or so. Me and her mum got talking, and eventually we got talking a lot. And because of what had gone on, and because of what had happened in the past, I just had to be honest. I had to be honest about me, I had to be honest about what I'd done, I had to be honest about everything. The result of that was that we talked everything out. That woman is now my wife, and we have an amazing relationship, and I love her dearly, and we have a relationship based on honesty, because though it came from such awful beginnings, though it came from me doing something that I still regard as being nigh on unforgivable. And don't get me wrong, for the first few years of the relationship, that question and that incident was thrown in my face a lot. And I took it, because it was nothing that I didn't deserve. But I have an amazing relationship with my wife, because it's built on honesty, and it's built on openness, and it's built on us being upfront about everything. And she knew me at my worst. So I couldn't really go wrong, because she'd had the worst I could do. And, I spent 12 years in a very unhappy, well, all right, maybe not all 12 years, but the large percentage of that relationship was a compromise. It was very unhappy. And it caused other people pain as well. All because I couldn't be honest. And all because I couldn't face myself. I spent 12 years running away from me. 12 years of being unhappy, of being miserable, and of causing misery to other people, all because I couldn't face me. Because I fucked up in a major way, because I got scared in a major way, and 12 years that my daughter didn't have me, and now pretty much 5 years that my son hasn't had me, because my ex-wife is so bitter and twisted over everything. She stopped me from seeing him. And that all started because I couldn't face myself, I couldn't be honest with myself, and I lied to myself and I ran away. We all get scared. And if you don't, you're a liar. We all fuck up. And if you don't, you're a liar. But what makes us men or women of character, and what makes us succeed, is accepting we fucked up, embracing that we fucked up, learning and moving forward, and being honest about where we went wrong. The fault is not in going wrong. The fault is in not facing your wrongdoing and not correcting it. That caused a lot of pain to a lot of people for a lot of years. And I am one of the luckiest men on this planet, because I got a second chance, because that woman forgave me and let me prove to her that I wasn't a dickhead that I acted all those years ago. Don't stay in a relationship if it's broken. It does no one any good. And be honest about the reasons you're leaving and why you're leaving, and be honest about those involved. It may hurt them at the time, but long term, it will definitely be better. You can't string them along. You can't try and do it nicely. You can't try and soften the blow. It doesn't fucking work. You have to be nasty, but you've got to be honest. You've got to be upfront. And if you make that decision to leave, then you've got to do it the right way. There never is a right time. There never is anything like that. It's just got to be done. And it's got to be done sooner than later. Once you've made that decision and you're not happy in that relationship, and that relationship's not working, then why the fuck are you staying in it? Because you're not making yourself miserable. You're making them miserable. You're making your kids miserable. You're making people around you miserable. Move on. Be honest with yourself and move on. It might be all your fault. Doesn't matter. It's still wrong to stay there. There is someone out there for you. As long as you are you. And you don't pretend to be somebody else, which a lot of people do in relationships as well. Be honest, be upfront, be straight with people. At least they know what they're buying then. At least they know what they're getting into. and they'll be with you because of who you are, not because of who you pretend to be. And you'll be a better person for facing your responsibilities and the actions and the consequences of what you've done, and learning from them, accepting them, and moving forward. Right, there you go. Hope that wasn't too heavy, and I'll speak to you soon.